Good morning. Well, I guess it's almost afternoon now that I think about it. Welcome here to the labor hearing room. Today I'm joining with Representative George Miller, who I might just add were classmates. We came to the House together in 1974, and we're still here and still working together. We're here to introduce the Fair Minimum Wage Act of 2013. As many of you are well aware, Representative Miller is the ranking member of the House Committee on Education and Workforce, and I chair the Help Committee here in the Senate. A key part of this effort is building opportunity for workers earning at or near the minimum wage, who are not only struggling to reach the middle class, but are falling further and further behind each day. These workers fill essential and often difficult jobs. They clean our offices, wait on us in restaurants and stores, and provide daycare for our children or take care of our parents and our grandparents. Yet, despite all they do to keep our economy running, minimum wage workers earn just $7.25 an hour. That's not enough to pay the bills, much less aspire to be in the middle class. Minimum wage workers are our friends and our neighbors. They're working hard and playing by the rules, and they deserve a chance to build a better life for their families. And I want to focus on this just for a moment, their families. Think about this. Since 2002, the poverty rate among children in America has gone from 16% to almost 22%. Over 1 in 5 kids in America live in poverty. And many of these are the children of people working every day, going to work every day, and making the minimum wage. So think about those families. And that's why today's legislation is so important. Our bill would gradually increase the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour. That would give a raise to 30 million American workers. More than half of these are women. 9 out of 10 are adult workers, not teenagers. Second, our bill would link future increases in the minimum wage to the cost of living so that people who are trying to get ahead don't fall behind as the economy grows. I'd argue that we should have done this a long time ago. Since its peak in 1968, the minimum wage has lost 31% of its purchasing power. 31% lost. Well, by indexing this, we make sure it never happens again. Finally, our bill will, for the first time in more than 20 years, raise the minimum wage for workers who earn tips so that they earn at least 70% of the regular minimum wage. The harsh truth is that the minimum wage has become a poverty wage for tens of millions of workers and, again, their families. This shouldn't happen in the richest nation on earth. No one who works hard for a living should have to live in poverty. Raising the minimum wage is also about growing our own economy. With an increase in the minimum wage, workers have more money to spend. And guess what? They spend it locally, not overseas. This is just basic economics. Increased demand means increased economic activity. They will spend their money in their local economies, giving a boost to Main Street. I was heartened that President Obama singled out the minimum wage in his State of the Union address. He said, quote, "We know our economy is stronger when we reward an honest day's work with honest wages." So our bill would achieve that goal and more, setting a foundation for a strong middle class for generations to come. Surely this is the minimum we owe to every American worker. And with that, let me introduce my great friend and my co-worker for all these last 38 years, Congressman George Miller.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you, Tom, for sharing these decades with all of your hard work and leadership on behalf of working people and children across this country. The bill that we are introducing today is a testament to your commitment to ensure that all Americans have the opportunity to succeed. And right now, tens of millions of Americans are working hard, stocking shelves, or working hard in fast food restaurants and cleaning bathrooms in downtown office buildings and throughout our entire sales and service sector of economy. They work full-time, they work 2 or 3 part-time jobs, they play by the rules, and they contribute, but they still live in poverty. And they're falling behind because their paychecks aren't keeping up. Today, 40% of Americans make less than the minimum wage was worth in 1968, and that is immoral. and it is economically dangerous. Income inequality threatens the economic security of working families and the strength of our nation. That's why we're here today, workers and business leaders alike, to say it's time for 10-10. It's time for 10-10 because raising the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour will put more money in workers' pockets and more green in the tills of businesses across the country. It's time for 10-10 because the bigger paycheck will go right back into the economy, back into local small businesses that are always looking for new customers. It's time for 10-10 because we know that business can afford to raise the minimum wage. The New York Times just yesterday called it the golden age of corporate profits, even while workers' wages remain stuck in quicksand. Senator Harkin and I believe that setting the minimum wage at $10.10 an hour matters. 10-10 matters to Gregory and Amy, who are here with us today, and to the 30 million workers like them that will get a raise under our bill. Nearly a quarter of all workers will get a raise under our bill. 10-10 matters to the 17.5 million children who have at least one parent who will get a raise under our bill. 10-10 matters to women. Most low-income workers are women. Close to 17 million women will get a pay raise under this legislation. And the fact that this is Women's History Month, we must understand that this has a huge impact on women across the country. 10-10 matters when it comes to indexing the minimum wage. If we tie the minimum wage to inflation, we must not start when the inflation adjustment is too low. Otherwise, workers will get stuck below the poverty line in perpetuity. We will be sentencing them to a sub-minimum wage in perpetuity. That's why 10-10 matters. Raising the minimum wage should be a no-brainer for lawmakers of both parties. Remember that George W. Bush signed the last minimum wage bill increase into law in 2007, and 82 House Republicans voted for a standalone bill when it passed the House the first time that same year. We're not naive. We know that raising the minimum wage is always a struggle, and that struggle starts with robust public debate. President Obama opened up that debate with the State of the Union, and it has now spread to workplaces and kitchen tables across the country. And the debate is now joined on Capitol Hill. I look forward to it. Senator Harkin looks forward to it. It's time for the workers to get a raise. It's time to grow our economy from the bottom up, and it's time for $10.10 an hour for all workers in this country. Thank you. You want to introduce your guest? You want to introduce your guest? No, you go ahead. Okay. We're especially honored today to have some witnesses who are operating in this economy outside the Capitol Hill. And I'd like to begin by introducing Margaret Dorfman, who is the CEO of U.S. Women's Chamber of Commerce, that has a leader of an organization that has some 500,000 members. And Margaret will discuss raising the minimum wage and how it will help her members and taxpayers who often pick up the tab for working families making a low wage. Margaret, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Margaret.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be here to address this very important issue. People who argue against raising the minimum wage often claim that they want to protect the interests of small businesses. While I am the CEO of the U.S. Women's Chamber of Commerce, which has more than 500,000 members, most of whom are small business owners, and I can assure you that raising the minimum wage would help their businesses and not hurt them. The biggest problem I hear from my members is that the economic recovery is slow because sales are still weak. Too many people forget that workers are also consumers, and wages are at the heart of consumer demand. Raising the minimum wage puts dollars in the pockets of people who, by necessity, most likely to spend them immediately at the grocery store, the child care provider, the auto repair shop, and other local businesses. Raising the minimum wage boosts the economy from the bottom up, which is exactly what we need to repower our economy and create lasting jobs. Our members know that the $7.25 an hour minimum wage is a poverty wage. It amounts to just $15,000 a year for full-time work. Women-owned firms already tend to pay above the minimum wage. This is because women owners understand and value security for employees and their families. And our members know that when businesses invest in their workforces with decent compensation, they enjoy the benefits of a dedicated workforce with less turnover, which reduces recruitment and training costs and produces higher productivity and better customer service. Many of my members were once employed employees themselves. They know that the typical low-wage worker is an adult woman. Think of your waitress or cashier at the chain stores. Think of the child care worker who takes care of your children, or the health aide who helps your mother or your grandfather. Our members know that raising the minimum wage helps women workers and business owners succeed. 17 million women will get a raise under the Harkin Miller proposal. In our experience, workers who are paid poverty wages work overwhelmingly for the big national and international chains, not for Main Street businesses. In fact, big corporations that pay poverty wages count on small businesses and taxpayers to subsidize them by providing food stamps and other forms of public assistance to workers and their families who can't make ends meet. And that's just not right. Now more than ever, it is imperative that employees are paid a fair minimum wage. It is an unsustainable and dangerous downward spiral to push American workers into poverty and expect taxpayers to pick up the bill for the consequences. Raising the minimum wage would assure taxpayers and businesses are paying fair and compensating workers at responsible levels. The U.S. Women's Chamber of Commerce strongly supports the Harkin Miller proposal to incrementally raise the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour. And when we raise the minimum wage, we should index it to the cost of living. It's common sense. It's much better for my members if there are small, regular increases than long stretches without a raise, followed by larger increases that leave them scrambling to make up for the lost ground. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great. I'd like now to introduce Andy Shalaw, who is the owner of the Washington area restaurants, Busboys and Poets, and that's thriving and expanding. And welcome and thank you for joining us and paying a decent wage.
Thank you very much. I am living proof that you can actually do this and still be successful. I know that the National Restaurant Association, which we call the other NRA, has been added to try to convince the world that if the minimum wage is going to be raised, the restaurants are going to close down, everybody's going to go home. The fact of the matter is that Washington, D.C. already has a higher than the average, than the national average, which is at $7.25 an hour. It's at $8.25 here. And restaurants are opening en masse. You can't walk around without seeing a new restaurant opening up every single day. I've been in this business for a very long time, and I've seen how wages have stagnated at the very bottom. It has unprofessionalized the business that I'm in. I'm in a business that I want to be in a business that is not just a default place where people go to because they can't find any other work. I want to be in a business where people really do look for it as a career opportunity. This is a business where wages at the very bottom have stagnated. Since 1985, the average discrepancy between the CEOs and the line workers was 40 to 1. Today, it's 350 to 1. These are shocking statistics that cannot be sustained. I, as for one, am part of a coalition, the Restaurant Opportunity Center, as well as other many businesses around the country that have said, you know what, this is not working for anybody. This is not good for business, this is not good for workers, this is not good for our society. When I want to give somebody a boost, a morale boost, I give them a raise sometimes. And I think we all need a morale boost in this country, and we all need to get that raise. This is long overdue, and I hope it passes, and I'm so upset that it's taken this long. That's my only issue, and I really don't think it even goes far enough. I would love to be able to see this bill go even higher, because I don't want to have my workers, or anybody's workers, well, my workers wouldn't be in that category, but any workers to have to not have a home to sleep in at the end of the night. When we go out and spend hundreds of dollars sometimes on meals, and we're clicking that last glass of wine, all we think about is the organic chicken that we ate and the grass-fed beef, but we never think about the workers. We talk about a triple bottom line, which is the bottom line of economy, the bottom line of community, and the bottom line of the environment. It's time for us to think about the fourth bottom line, and that is the workers. I want to thank Senator Harkins and Representative Miller for introducing this legislation. And I took off from lunchtime, and you know lunchtime is important in the restaurant business, to be able to be here so I can voice my opinion about this. And I hope many other restaurants, and the NRA, which is going to be here in April to lobby, to tell you that the world is going to end if you raise this bill. Don't listen to them. They've lied before. They will lie again. This is the same organizations that have gone out and said that if you stop smoking in restaurants, that restaurants are going to close and go away. The fact of the matter is that we stopped smoking in our restaurants way before it became the law. And after it became the law, restaurants are thriving more than ever. And you can't imagine today that sitting next to somebody smoking in a restaurant anymore. So please, 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 I want this to really be my, sort of my legacy as a person that's growing older, and I'm in the restaurant business. I want to be able to make sure that this bill passes. So I'll put all my effort behind it. Thank you so much.
Wow. Man. Oh. We need more Andys around, I can tell you that. Wow. That was very powerful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now we'll hear from Gregory Reynosa from Brooklyn, New York, where he is a pizza delivery driver. Gregory.
Thank you. I'm glad to stay here. My name is Gregory Reynosa. I live in Brooklyn, New York with my wife and my daughter, who's almost 3 years. I'm a driver for Domino's Pizza. I'm earning $7.25 an hour. I work hard to provide for my family, but my wage is not enough to make the ends meet. Right now, we are just surviving, and we are struggling because the cost of living keeps going up, but my wages stay the same. The rent is going up. The cost of gas is going up. Sometimes if I pay one bill, I can't pay the others. I can really not pay the others. I'm delivering food to other people all day, but sometimes I need food stamps so my family can eat. At my job, I have to use my own car. And Domino doesn't provide insurance. And they don't provide enough gas for all day. Sometimes, even with tips, I feel like I'm losing money. If the minimum wage goes up to $10.10, it will make a big difference for me and my family. I can send my daughter to a better school, or I can get a better apartment. We can live more comfortable with less problems. I could even take my family to dinner or a movie for a better life. I want my wife to be able to finish school. I want my daughter to go to university in the future. I would like to start a career for a better future. And my family is not alone. So many families in this country have the same problem. And on the behalf and on my family behalf, I would like to ask the Congress to support this bill. And thanks the Senator Harkins and then Congressman Miller for their commitment to raising wage for working people in this country.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you. Great. Thank you. This is what we're talking about, folks. People that work hard every day, providing for their families. And yes, Gregory needs a raise, don't you think? Yeah. And last, we'll hear from Amy Crawford from Chicago, Illinois, where she works at a fast food restaurant. Amy?
My name is Amy Crawford, and I'm here today to share my story about life on minimum wage. I never thought I would be a minimum wage worker. I'm 56 years old. I worked as a designer for over 30 years. I had health insurance, paid vacation and sick days, and a retirement plan. I lived a comfortable middle-class life, and I saved money so I could have a secure retirement. 14 months ago, I relocated to Chicago for family reasons. I'd never had trouble finding a job in the past, so I felt confident I'd be able to find a new job in Chicago. I treated finding a job as a full-time job. I did everything you were supposed to do, and it didn't work. I was debt-free and had savings to fall back on, but I grew anxious as time went by with no job prospects. I took a job, temporarily, in a quick-service restaurant. It was just something to bring money in while I continued my job search. I used to think that minimum wage jobs were other people, people who worked where I stopped to get donuts or burgers. They weren't me. They had less education, fewer skills. They didn't work as hard as I had or try as hard. I couldn't have been more wrong. I was hired at $8.25 an hour, the state minimum wage. It's $1 more than the federal minimum wage, but not nearly enough to live on, especially in Chicago's high cost of living. I received one 50-cent raise, and that may be my only raise. There's almost no opportunity to move up to a management position. I was hired for a full-time job, but I usually get far less than 40 hours. I only had 28 hours last week. My take-home pay for February was $788. I work in the Magnificent Mile. It's a high-end shopping district that brings in billions of dollars a year. Yet a lot of its workers are paid at or slightly above minimum wage. Our employers can afford to give us a raise. We work hard. The work we do is physically and emotionally demanding, but that's not the hardest part. The hardest part is worrying about money. We worry about paying the rent, having enough food, buying clothes for our kids. Some of us are homeless. Others work 2 or more jobs. You know, after going to school to earn a degree and working a profession for 3 decades, I never thought I'd find myself here. The truth is that in today's economy, anyone can wind up in a minimum wage job. Like me, many minimum wage workers have fallen out of middle-class jobs and can't get up. Minimum wage needs to be higher so everyone willing to work can have a roof over their heads, can have food on the table, can take care of their families, and can hope someday even to be able to retire.
Very good.
Thank you.
See, it's such a mistaken idea that's out there that all the people that are earning minimum wage are teenagers, you know, and they're just doing it part-time and that kind of thing. But here's a classic example of people who have had one occupation, but because of economic circumstances find that they have to go back to work, and yet they're making the minimum wage. So it's not just teenagers, folks. These are people that well, have families, people that are older, that find themselves in certain situations, but they're doing the work that keeps our country going. I just, you know, and to the extent I think that we think about this so often that a lot of these minimum wage workers, they almost are invisible to the rest of society. You know, when you get that Domino's delivered pizza to you, do you think about that driver and how much that person's making, what their family's going through, or a person at a fast food restaurant, or people that wait on you, and you think, well, should I give them a 15% tip or a 20% tip? You think about those families that are out there that are making those minimum wages and what they're going through. Rents are going up, food's going up, gasoline's going, everything's going up. But we haven't had a decent increase in the minimum wage. So we're committed to this. We're going to do everything possible to move this bill through, and be delighted. There's a vote going on in the Senate right now, so I'll open it for questions. And the press got any questions or something here? You first, yes.
So the bill raises the federal minimum wage to $10.10 by 2016, 3 years, but still doesn't catch up with federal minimum wage from 1968 adjusted for inflation, which should be at least $10.50 per hour in 2013. So I was wondering why not propose an increase that has us catch up to 1968 standards now, at $10.50 an hour rather than one that falls short of what we had 45 years ago, especially since worker productivity has doubled in that time.
Well, the only answer I can give you is that that this does get us within over 90% of what it was in 1968. And obviously, I would like it to be even higher, but we believe this is doable. But we believe that this is something that that we can actually get through. And if we get indexing in, then we won't ever go below that 90% of what it was in 1968. So would I like to see it higher? Sure, I would. But I'm just being a realist, I think, on terms of what we can do.
The problem is, without indexing, we fall behind, so then you have the increases to try to catch you up to current. Hopefully in the future, a future Congress, if they decide that 90% is not sufficient, and it isn't, they'll be able to make small changes to get you to 100%. But right now, you've got to make the first big steps to catch up because the Congress hasn't done anything. And so we're taking on that part of the fight, get indexing in place, and then a future Congress can make the small adjustments necessary to get people up to 100%. It's, you know, it's a tough slog. That we know that this is a very political issue. The forces that are going to come to bear against this are going to be huge. But we've been through it before. We've been involved in every minimum wage increase in the last 40 years, and we're prepared to do this again. And we think that in fact, this is going to happen in this Congress.
I just heard one statement by someone opposed to this on the other side said, well, you know, that what happens if you increase the price of labor, you get less of it. There's been this myth for so long that every time we raise the minimum wage, people get put out of work. There's absolutely no empirical data to show that whatsoever. None. In fact, just the opposite. Every time we've raised the minimum wage, and we first did it when we were freshmen in the House of Representatives back in the 70s, every time we've raised the minimum wage, employment goes up. The economy gets stronger every single time. And so that whole myth that somehow if you raise the minimum wage, people will be out of work is just absolutely not true.
I think.
What's my message to?
Senators that aren't signed on yet. You said you were pretty confident you would pass the Congress that also, you know, alluded to the fact that there might be some opposition.
My message is do what's right. Do what's fair. Do what's in the best interest of our country, and that is raising the minimum wage. You know, there's a lot of people in this country who made a lot of money. I just saw something in the paper this morning about all the billionaires that we have in America and stuff like that. You know, okay, fine. I don't begrudge them that. But let's not begrudge raising the minimum wage. Let's make sure that we at least get people out of the poverty level if they're working every day. That's my message to fellow senators. Yes.
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 In any negotiation, there's a starting point and an ending point. I'm just curious, how did you arrive at the 1010? Is this an opening proposal? Could you accept something less, more, different? What is the rationale?
Well, this is the steps that we think are necessary to try and close this gap because of the inaction. And so the goal here, and Senator Harkin worked very hard on this, is to take these 3 steps, catch us up, and then to include indexing, as I said earlier, and then the future Congress can make that decision. You could have picked other figures. Obviously, we think this is this is doable in this Congress, and linked to indexing is a very, very significant change going into the future.
If Republicans come back with a proposal that is less than this, would that be something you would discuss?
Well, Republicans, for the most part, don't like this at all. So to get them engaged in the game, what we'll see, I think, is they'll be engaged in the game when the vote comes, just as we saw last time when 82 House Republicans joined on voting for the minimum wage. But I would look forward to those negotiations.
And I'm sorry, I know you said that a lot of people aren't up on indexing. Could you explain?
Indexing is to make sure that the minimum wage doesn't lose value because Congress doesn't get back to raising it in lump sum amounts as you have to do because of the inaction. The last one we did in 2007, it took 10 years before Congress took that action. You got to make up for that lost time Otherwise, you're just building off a sub-minimum base and an unacceptable base in terms of paying people for the work they do.
I'm sorry, I only got 4
No,
minutes
he's got
left, but I got to go. Thank you, George.
Yes, anytime.
Thank you
Come
very
back.
much. And for all of you who are here, this is not a compromise. This is where we have to go. We need your help. We need you on the House. We need you here in the Senate lobbying for this. Do what's right. Do what's fair. Do what's just. That's $10.10 an hour minimum wage indexed in the future. Thank you very much.
Anything else quickly? I've got a hearing.
Certainly this bill's going to have to get movement in that Republican control House. It's going to be a trail. What gives you optimism that there could be some traction for this bill in the House?
Because I think you see constantly people commenting on the disparities and the inequity of pay in this country, of people's assets in this country, and recognizing that there's millions of people that go to work every day, work their tail off, maybe go to another job, and they don't have fair pay. And I think that this country has got an education over the last couple of years about disparities. When they saw the financial scandals of Wall Street take down middle-class families, destroy their homes, destroy their jobs, destroy their savings, destroy their pensions, people are now aware that somebody better fight for themselves. And I think you're going to see that millions of people are going to join this battle for the minimum wage because they understand the morality of it, the simple morality of it. It's very interesting that people got it without an explicit 9-point agenda, without 5 committees and 4 leaders and all the rest of that Occupy America immediately switched the conversation in this nation and the consciousness of people about the inequities that are becoming more and more prevalent in America. And I think people have a sense they want to do something about it. And the minimum wage is, in a sense, the easiest way to start removing those disparities for some of the hardest working, lowest paid people in America today. That's what this is about. Just quickly, I'm sorry, because I got to go to House Administration. We expect that to be part of this debate. It always is, and we've dealt with it in the past. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I expect it to be joined as part of this debate. Absolutely. Yes, I do. Yes. Anyone else? Thank you very much. Thank you. Please, we need all your support, all your help.
We're going to give you this black shirt. You guys come to the Opportunity Center.
Thank you. It's a little small.
You're so flattering of my size. I was stunned. Thank you so much.
Thank you. For doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.